Hello everyone, WallaceMan105 here, and welcome back to another episode on the KeatsCraft server. It's been a few days since I last recorded, so let's go ahead and check in on the Iron Farm's progress. I managed to get a solid couple of AFK sessions in, and as you can see, we've got about 2.5 double chests filled even after I used these to stock my shop with hoppers and rails. So, this is going pretty good. I did have to add walls all the way up due to an issue with the golems moving from side to side. But this is working really well. And while I do have an enormously exciting plan for today's episode, first, I want to tidy up around here and add an item filter and storage system to the Iron Farm. My plan here is going to be to do three things. I want to add a lot more storage capacity. I want to move the lava pool up higher. And I want to add a filter that's going to separate iron from poppies and automatically compost the poppies into bone meal, which will be useful for a future project I have in mind. So the design I've gone with is, of course, symmetrical, and uses a hopper minecart up at the top to handle distribution into the two item filters. And the item filter on the right here has a composter built in so that it will automatically process the poppies. You can see it firing off there. And then everything gets collected into these chests here. The bone meal is going to unfortunately lag significantly behind the iron since it takes, I believe, around 6 to 7 poppies to make a bone meal, and only 1 poppy drops per golem compared to the 4 or 5 iron for every golem. But in any event, this should work out great. I did not set up the hoppers so that way the bottom chest would always automatically refill, but I don't think that's really going to matter. With this little formality checked off, I believe we are now free to deal with the meat of today's episode. Welcome to the Overbase Village, which, aside from being in desperate need of a better name, is also well overdue for an overhaul, which we're going to start in today's episode. I'm going to handle this project in 3 main sections. I'm going to be shoring up the coastlines and filling in the land along the river. I'm going to settle on what size I want the town's blocks to be, and kind of do the startings of a road layout. And then I'm going to make some bridges across the river. I intend to use the land a bit out from the north half of the river to make some large farming plots, some animal pens and the like, whereas the land far to the south of the river will be made into more of an industrial district with warehouses and factories. The land along the river itself is going to be a good bit more urban with, shops and houses and such. This is going to be, definitely a long-term project and spread out across several episodes. And I'm really, really looking forward to it. So, I think I'm going to go ahead and do the river project first as a time lapse. Alright, I've built up both walls so far, with 3 high on one and 2 high on the other, leaving a little bit of room for the hills. Uh, and I've started on the block designs for the south half of the river. I'm gonna wait to rework the north side until I've got more buildings. And speaking of, I'm gonna build my first structure here along the waterfront. It's gonna be a 3-story building with a storefront housing above, which means we're going for another time lapse. Kick it! Now that I've gotten the building completed, I want to go over the design a little and rant a little. Well, a lot, actually. I want to rant a lot about villager pathfinding. But first, architecture. This corner store is a 3-story building that's going to have 6 workstations on the ground floor and 2 4-bedroom apartments above. The stairwell is made to be symmetrical, letting me have 2 doors for each apartment. More on that in the rant. And the top floor is only 8 blocks above the ground level. Also, more on that in the rant. And I want to build a copy of this across the street with only clerics and style it as a bank. Okay, now the rant. Villager pathfinding sucks. In Minecraft generally, but in Java especially. Bedrock has a leg up here with its preferred path system, which helps incentivize villagers to walk over paths instead of random blocks, but that's really a band-aid on the whole situation. Let me start with the first irritating part of villager pathfinding. finding concrete information on villager pathfinding is very difficult. As an example, what is the maximum distance a villager can pathfind? Seems like a simple first draft question. Well, there's at least 2 answers, and I suspect there are more. A villager can pathfind to a workstation to claim it if it's in a 48 block sphere. So they can travel 24 blocks without getting lost, right? Wrong. Bells being rung affect villagers within a 32 block radius, and villagers taken more than 32 blocks away from a village boundary forget its village home in around 6 seconds. So they can pathfind up to 32 blocks, right? Again, wrong. Villagers anchor their pathfinding on 3 items: workstations, beds, and bells. Throughout the day, villagers move from anchor to anchor based on a set schedule of wandering, working, gathering, more wandering, then finally sleeping. That means that villagers, at least attempt to, move from their bed to their workstation to the nearest bell and then back to their bed. This means that their movement isn't linear, so the max distance overall doesn't matter. They need to find each object within 32 blocks each time, but the reference point keeps changing. First, they need to find their workstation from their bed. Cool. The bed is the point of reference, 32 block radius, good, good. Then they need to find the nearest bell from their workstation. Now, the workstation is the reference point, not the bed. 32 blocks, but as long as they have to go back to the workstation, cool. But instead, then they need to find their bed from the bell. Now the bell is the reference point with a 32 block limit again. This whole system would be much cleaner if they had to go from bed to bell to station to bell again, then back to the bed. That would move them down a straight line from bed, bell, workstation, and then backwards. Workstation, bell, bed. In that system, a villager would be able to move 64 blocks end to end. 32 from the bed to bell, the bell itself, then 32 blocks from bell to workstation, then just reverse course. Instead, we have this triangular nightmare of bed, workstation, bell, bed, workstation, bell, bed. That constantly changes what it's measuring, and after months of looking into this, I'm still not sure that that's how this works. And that's not even to mention that they constantly jump off ledges high enough to take fall damage from, completely shut down when faced with any kind of trap door in their 32 block radius, can go up but not down ladders, crowd doorways so they all get stuck, and then wander radius is so... it's the same as the other radiuses, so they always get lost and wander off and only find their way back to work once some new villager has already taken their workstation. All this is to say, I have to account for the terrible villager AI in every building I put here and every town I build, and I hate it. The quick and dirty solution I often have to use, and that I recommend to those of you watching, is to just spam bells literally everywhere, so that if they do get lost, they can at least reset their paths during the gather part of the schedule. This has been Wallace. I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, take it easy.